And I took a week off, in case you didn't know. I don't know if you noticed that I'd even gone. Just in case you didn't get it, it's an episode, everybody. So far, I'm alright. And then came this bombshell. Yeah, squint, it's a trade-off. We like a trade-offs, so please stop suggesting it. That's going to be your glass smash moment when you realise, oh my god, you do. And now you've ruined the entire series. Oh god, you take a week off and you forget how to intro your own video. Hey everybody, how's it going? So thanks for coming along to this teardown episode for ChachoLandia, episode 6. And I took a week off, in case you didn't know. I don't know if you noticed that I'd even gone. But yes, so I wanted to have some time to myself. I watched Eurovision. Congratulations to Italy. Absolutely deserved winner. Never mind, James. You did a good enough job. You did us proud, regardless to the score that you got. So yes, here we are back in ChachoLandia, and we're going to tear apart the Tudor theming and everything that we did in that episode. But before we do, I just wanted to address this elephant in this room, because obviously you heard me talking in the first episode, or in the last episode should I say, about the idea of having a Bermuda Blitz in this area, right? And it didn't work. It didn't turn out, as you probably guessed. It's a Eurofighter. So surprise. So yeah, I just wanted to address why that was. I did originally have it edited into the original video, but it actually took a little bit too long to explain and it was a bit boring, so I thought I'm going to save it for this one. So you already know there's a mod out there, right? There's a mod out there that means that you can remove the track limits, you can swap all of the trains and everything on the track, and you can use, you can make tracks that shouldn't invert, and all of that sort of stuff. So we're going to just put this to bed right now. That mod crashes my PC, so I can't actually use it, and even if I did, you would have to have the mod installed in order to load the park, so that kind of reduces the number of people that would be able to enjoy ChachoLandia after this is done. So for that reason, I took the creative decision to not do what I was doing, and to do the Eurofighter instead. That also applies to the Invisible Doodads mod, and there's also another mod out there that I can't remember off the top of my head what it does, but that also crashes my PC. They all do. None of them work. So for that reason, I'm not going to be using them, and I'm never going to be using them. So please stop suggesting it. So anyway, so there is a thing that you can do in the game though, right? So there is something that already comes in the game, and you have the ability to swap out tracks. So when we're dealing with the Bermuda Blitz, we already know, right, it's got a specific shape. The new Vekomas have got this very specific shape, and it actually incidentally is the same as the Jigsaw in game, right? And it's this shape here, so we know that we can use Jigsaw. Now, there's a problem with this. These Jigsaws... Oh, actually, sorry, this is the Interceptor. The Jigsaw is the other motorbike one. So, the problem with this coaster type, though, is that it's only hydraulic launch and it can't invert. Well, that's no good for a Bermuda Blitz, because they have a chain lift and they invert. But you do have the ability in here to swap out the trains. So if you go to customize and then you pull down the menu, you can actually swap out the trains on the track. And I think this is also a thing on console as well. And it's something that was introduced sort of mid the development cycle of the game, when people were finding ways or asking for different trains for different tracks. And likewise with the Tiamat as well. You can do the same on the Tiamat. So you can pull this down and you've got a much larger palette of trains that you can use, and it's all to do with what the train is capable of doing and the shape of the track, right? So the B&Ms are all swappable out with each other. Swappable out? Is that even a word? You can swap all of the trains out on the B&Ms and everything. So this is the one that I was looking at using though, because my criteria for the Bermuda Blitz was the track has to look like the Vekoma, it has to have a chain lift, and it has to be able to invert. Well, the Pioneer, you know, the one that's got the birds? So it's this one. I've actually already changed this out. What's it called? No, the Blackthorn Anubis. Guys, I can't remember what it's actually called. Pioneer, right? That's what it's called. Where's the Pioneer train? There it is. There it is. So the Pioneer, right? So this is the native train that comes with this track. And so I was like, this is perfect shape. Perfect everything, chain lift, blah blah blah. But as you saw, because I just had the Invincible train on it, the station doesn't actually change shape with it. Of course it wouldn't, because I'm using the wrong train on the wrong station type, right, or on the wrong track type. So of course it's fine. Now if the Invisible Doodads mod worked, I could remove the station completely, build my own station, happy days, job done. But it just turned out that the work that was needed into to go into this actual station configuration and everything was just far too much than was even feasibly possible to do. No amount of Thememaker's Toolkit was going to hide the misdemeanors that this was going to cause. So, especially as you've got like this whole... it was just the cattle pen and everything was just all in the wrong place. You just can't fix it. It was just going to go horribly wrong. And then stumbled across the SLV, and I was like, oh, do you know what? The SLV is a very similar track, especially if you use the third track type. So I decided to use the SLV, and to start with, I thought, oh, amazing, I'm just going to copy the layout of the Lek coaster in Poland. In Legendia in Poland, just to see, how close I can get to the style and everything that the Bermuda Blitzes have actually got. So this is what I did. I started with the first turnaround and into the lift hill, and I was like, okay, so far so good. It's not perfect, but it's better than the Pioneer version. So I was like, it's okay. And forgive the fact that this track is janky. It's the 4-meter method before it's been smooth. I just wanted to make sure that it felt right. And then I got up to this point, and I was like, okay, so the lift hill rounds off quite nicely, and I can go beyond vertical if I need to, because that's what the Lek coaster does. I'm like, okay, we're on to a winner here, guys. We're on to a winner. And then I thought, what about transfer track? So I started the transfer track, and I was like, well, this is kind of believable. It's not entirely realistic to the Vekoma Bermuda Blitzes. This is obviously very much Schwarzkopf, but it's squint and you can believe it. There's a trade-off that I could make here. And I was like, I'm okay with this. So far, I'm all right. And then came this bombshell. Friction brakes that are on the side. And of course, that's because that's the Schwarzkopfs. Like, of course. But that, for me, was just too much of a trade-off that I just couldn't make it. I just couldn't make this trade-off at all. And also, I couldn't finish off this bit here. So I can't make the track overlap because this is two different track types. So, I like to clip through my track here and everything, right? So I just decided, no, I just can't do it. It was just too much. So instead, we ended up with our Eurofighter. And you know what? I think it actually fits quite nicely into this whole area. It sits nicely on the profile here. It sits like well within the buildings. The actual thing, the whole area feels like it's a Tudor village. I don't think I would have been able to achieve any of this using the Bermuda Blitz, so I'm actually pleased with how this has turned out. Now, guys, I just need to let you know, when I reloaded the park after some time off, there's a Thememaker's Toolkit piece item, or multiple items that are missing. I've got no idea. Not a clue. Pretty standard, right? That's like, that's almost my go-to. I have no idea. That's my go-to. So, yeah, I've got whatever. So let's just tear some stuff apart, right? Because you've asked me to do some stuff. So, where shall we start? We're going to start. Oh no, do you know what? Let's not tear this apart yet. Let's do the night run. So here we go at night. Nice and simple light package on this one. I didn't want this to be too intrusive or too colourful. It had to be cold and stark. So all I've done is I've put the normal lamps around, and then I've used the usual trick in here with the lights underneath the ground. So you know this trick by now. It's the panels underneath, a panel of lights underneath the ground. The only difference is that over on the bar I've made a yellow lighting, right? So I wanted this to feel a little bit warmer, because the lighting throwing from this would be the yellow light bulbs rather than bright white light bulbs that you would find elsewhere. And then I've also done the same inside this area as well, and also inside I thought I did inside the gift shop. I obviously didn't do inside the gift shop. Don't look where I'm doing. I might need to fix that later. Oh, you have a week off and everything's ruined. I'm never doing that again. So, yeah, and I've done the inside of the station, and then just a lot of the floodlighting, like the low-level floodlighting, just to take the edge of the darkness away from everything. So inside the queue is all of this floodlighting, and the areas as well inside the floodlighting. Okay, so let's tear some stuff apart. I just need to swap out some stuff. Let's have a look at the queue line. Alright, so the first thing you've asked me to tear apart then is the queue line for the Eurofighter. Now, this is actually a really simple queue line. There's no dodginess or trickery or anything going into this. It's just a cattle pen. How incredibly boring is that? So the first thing I did though, or the first thing we'll tear apart though, is this queue cover. There's nothing, like I say, no trickery to this. It's all beams, but all the beams that come in the game, right? So it's just the wooden beam that's placed in a lattice effect like this. So vertically, horizontally, and then you just have the normal wooden post that comes into here, right? That's all it is. It's literally all it is, nothing trickery. And then underneath the path cover, which you already know what I do in terms of path covers, don't forget that you've got the episode of the Top Tip series that shows you how to do all of this. It's the plaza decoration episode, and also the Paths and Plazas episode sort of touches on it over those 2 episodes. Say episode some more. You know, just in case you didn't get it, it's an episode, everybody. So yeah, this is like the path cover that I use, just to hide the ugliness that is the actual main path itself. You can see it is proper ugly. Like in some places, I've just had to do some really dodgy stuff because I'm a dodgy character. And yeah, so all I've done is I put it into a cattle pen, and the shaping of this, I just wanted to have rather than it just going long and back, back, I wanted to have a little bit of variation. So this is why it's half and half. So it's a bit more, it's a bit more confusing as well for the guests. They don't know where they are in the queue. They don't know how long they got left. So you can sort of just like make them want to die. So this is when we do turn it to a murder park. So yeah, it's out and back, and then it comes right across the back, and then out and back, and so on. So that's pretty much how I lay down the path, and then it makes the fences a lot easier to do, because you just create one row of fence and you copy and paste it like so, and it's just one building, so you can just move it and manage it in one area. And then what I wanted to do is have it a little bit more enclosed and penned in, so I've just put the normal fences all along the brake run, just to make sure that it's like that you're hiding the brake run and everything from the queue line, right? So it's making it a bit more immersive. You put the bins down. Obviously, they're not usable, so they're just there for decoration. But it just gives that element of realism, because obviously guests are gonna have litter in the queues, so they just need to have like some kind of way of getting rid of that rather than dropping it on the floor. And then the building itself, it's not functional. It doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever. I mean, it doesn't even need to be in the game. It just wouldn't even like have any effect. I'm just going to move our queue cover out of the way again, so we can see this a bit more, because the Tudor theming itself is where this really comes to life. So for this one, all I've done is some kind of a brick base, and then a couple of stucco layers. So in this instance, I've done a layer of 2 meters and 1 meter, so you've got 3 meters in total, right? You could do 4. It's completely up to you. There is precedent set for how the Tudor stuff is put together, and then you just use the wood beams coloured black, just to style out how you want it to be. So typically you've got vertical and horizontal lines. They are very, very typical of Tudor, and also it works for Bavarian and also the French half wood. So it's all the same style. And then you use the tall gable wall for well, your gables. That's what clues in the title, guys. Yeah, so you've got your gable there, and then you just you style it out with your beams. So in this instance, I've just put some verticals, horizontals, and some diagonals up here as well. I didn't want to continue this all the way up because it just looked too vertical. You need something to break it up, right? So you need something to break up that pattern, to give something a little bit interesting. Always put the beams around your windows. So that's where I've sort of taken the inspiration from Stratford upon Avon, not Stafford. That's a different place. Stratford upon Avon, just to like get that idea. And then the same here. So I've got an expansive wall, and rather than copying the pattern across here and having the same, I've used like a bit of a hybrid between this pattern and this pattern to create this area here. But what you tend to find is where you've got wider areas, you do also have diagonal slats that come on the left and the right hand side, and so you just put those in and make this here, and then just copy and paste it across, because that's all Tudor buildings are, right? They're just copies and pastes of each other, because it was an easy building method to use, because all they had to do was just place the beams, fill in the gaps, and they were away. It's like a really cheap, easy construction method to use. Then here I've just pulled across some of the shade sails. Now these, I think Hydro did them. They're on the workshop. If I just edit this, highlight this, and come out this way. So I've just got a couple of the same planks that I've used on the walls, just to give it some kind of framing and support, and then I'll just put the sails on, and then it just looks like an awning. It's nice and simple. Like, that's all there is to it. Now I wanted to have this building here to obscure the queue behind, so this idea of it being claustrophobic in the middle here was key. So I knew that I was going to enclose it with a queue cover. I was going to fence it in from the brake run, and also box it in along this side as well. And the other thing just to show you is on the station itself. So I've continued this idea of the verticals and horizontals, and then the diamonds and the diagonals and stuff. That's so typical Tudor. But for this one here, this involved a little bit of trickery that was needed. So it is all one building, but the bits that I'm just moving now, these bits at the top here, they're actually placed on the other side of the grid. So let me show you what I mean by that. So you can see here that I've got the grid, and it's essentially it's the same square here, right? But if I place it on the next square over, I now have the ability to place it back to back. So what I've done here is I've actually stuck out the wall here, so it sticks out from the wall below, like this. So that's typical for Tudor, right? So you have these jutting out pieces, and they're supported in some way. I've used it over on the shop, which I'll show you in a moment as well. But this is what I've done for the station, and I've just misaligned the wall here, so you've just got the jutting out, and then all you do is you just continue your beams up so that you have a consistent pattern. And then I've just put these windows along here just to fill that gap, because of course if you look from the underside here, it's just like it sticks out. So I wanted something to almost blend and blur the line between the two here. So that's essentially the queue line. What else are we going to tear apart, do you think? Next up then, we have the beauty of the gift shop. And the gift shop, I wanted to make something a little bit special with it. I didn't want to just use square buildings. I realised, guys, I use square buildings all the time. That's going to be your glass smash moment when you realise, oh my god, you do. And now you've ruined the entire series. Yeah, so I wanted to do something a little bit special on this one. I wanted to have the octagonal front here. So that is just 3 buildings placed with each other, right? But I made sure that this one here was still separate from the main building, so I had control over how far it actually stuck out. And that's because when you're placing things at a 45-degree angle, they don't always nicely slot into place. And it's still not perfect, right? You can see that this this roof on here it's still hideous. It's still not ideal, but it's as close to perfect as you're going to get with how the game wants you to place things down. So yeah, squint, it's a trade-off. We like a trade-offs. We like a good trade-off. So yeah, that's how I've done that. And the principle of decorating it is exactly the same as the previous building. You want lots of diagonals, lots of straights and verticals and horizontals and all sorts, right? So it's down to you to decide how you do it. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to Tudor. Just as long as it's black and white stucco, you're on to a winner. And so yeah, I then created the typical square box style gift shop that I have. So I'm just going to take the roof off this one. There we go. So take the roof off here, and you can see that I've got a ceiling. So the ceiling on this one is just your wooden wall, wooden panel that I use from the haunted set. It's this one here, the haunted house wooden panel. Use it everywhere, everywhere, literally everywhere. And then I've also got the trim, so the haunted house roof trim. That's on here, and that just gives a little bit more character to the actual roof itself. It just makes the roof have a bit of a kick to it. And I've never actually really used the roof trims before. I normally do my own and have them continuing down on a separate building. But actually, this roof trim works really, really, really well. So I've decided to keep that. And then on the inside, I'm also, by the way, I'm just going to remove these walls as well. 1 second. There we go. And then remove these so we can see inside. So there we go, like that. So then on the inside, then going from ceiling to floor, I put in these haunted house wooden beams. Now I wanted these in because inside Tudor buildings you tend to have a lot of these exposed beams on the ceiling. So this was my way of replicating that. So that's just all they are. On the floor, I'm just using this Theme Maker's Toolkit wood floor. You've seen me use this in pretty much everywhere. It's really versatile. Absolutely love how it sits, and it's recolorable as well, so you can physically change the color if you so wish. So yeah, I just like how that comes into there. And then underneath, I've got different paths, right? So I needed to put this, whatever they're called, like the Tudor style. I don't know what it's called. I should have researched it. This anyway. And because of the way that the building is sitting, I knew that this path would have to go quite far into the gift shop. So the trick with this is to make sure that whatever floor you're placing down on the outside is the lowest floor that you sit down. And then whatever floor you're placing on the inside sits on top of it and clips through it like that. So you still do get a little bit of clip through when it comes from the guests walking and everything. It's like you have to squint and just deal with it. But that's how you can get all of this overlapping texture and everything, and it makes it look like you've fitted it perfectly. You haven't. All you've done is you've just done a lot of clipping, and you're hiding quite a few misdemeanors when it comes to pathing. So, run with it, guys. It works, I promise. And then on the inside here, I've just continued this idea of the beams. The same with the skirting boards down here, and then I've put the brick columns all along as well, because that's what I use on the outside. White stucco walls. With this one, there is no brick foundation, it's just the white stucco wall on the inside here, because I wanted to overlay this, right? Because I wanted to have an actual inside where I wasn't using the square. I wanted it to still have the stucco. So what I've done here is I've created a separate building piece that's got this white wall to it, and then this one here that's got the outside. So what I've shown you before with the 1 meter brick, 2 meter stucco, 1 meter stucco. It's two buildings but placed together, and then this one here is clipped into the back of the building. So if I show you this like that, so there's the original building here, and then this is the additional building that creates the inside wall, and all I do is I just clip that in, so it now looks like it's part of one same building, but it's not. It's actually two buildings working as one, and then you just got the outside and the inside where you've got two different textures. And I do that quite a lot. I either create an extra building to create the indoor walls, or I'll cover the walls with something like a panel or the square that you see. I use that technique a lot. In terms of the gift shop, you've seen all these before. You see, we've torn them apart in loads of different episodes. They're just shelves with stuff stuck onto them. These are all Thememakers Toolkit items, but you can create some awesome items from in-game. If you're on PC, you can go into the workshop and you can find some amazing gift shop items that were built in the early days. They're fantastic. And if you're on console, I'm sure by now somebody has actually done that already. So I've then just continued to copy all of this stuff around, and I've put in some barriers to make sure that people aren't walking through the shelves. Now I can't put barriers for everything because of the way that the pathing system works. There needs to be a bit of a hitbox area for this guest or this member of staff to walk through, so sometimes they do have to clip through stuff. Unfortunately, we're just gonna have to squint and believe this one. So and that's essentially the inside of the gift shop, right? Then I just put loads of posters and stuff just around to make it look like an actual gift shop. And then on the outside, as I said before, I've just continued the idea of decorating using Tudor, and then I've just put the alcoves in here as well, so like the dormer areas where you've got bits that are sticking out from the ceiling. But I didn't want to go too OTT with this building because it's just a gift shop. It just needs to be believable. So what are we going to tear apart next? So let's go ahead and talk about Henry's, because there's a lot of stuff that's gone into this that I think you guys have wanted to see. So this is one of those mixture of in-game and a lot of Thememakers Toolkit items. It uses all of the principles that we've used in the Tudor stuff already. So the idea of the beams and the curves and the way that it's all laid out, and the horizontals and the verticals, but this is very, very, very different. So the first thing to show you, there's so much to show you, I don't know where to start, so we'll just start here. The roofs. So the roofs, just like the walls on the gift shop, they work on a multi-building grid things, where I've got this part that's sticking out that's a separate building grid to the actual main building itself. And that's so I've got complete control over how much the roof actually overlaps. So you can see here, like, I've got control. If I wanted it to be out here, it can be. If I didn't want it to be so obvious, then I can move it back. And then all you do is, when you've placed down this extra bit and the overlap, you then just line it off with the beams just to make it a bit of a flush thing to look at. So it's not obvious that it's a separate building. You're just making it look like you intended to do that. And then these are just the 4 meter high ones. No, these are the 2 meter high ones, aren't they? Are they 2 or are they 4? No, it's 4. It is 4. I was thinking, I don't actually use the 4-meter ones that often, so it looks a bit strange when I've actually used it. And then you've just got these little ones here, so they are just the haunted house roof. Now, we don't have this equivalent in this roof style, but then we also don't have decent 4-meter ones in this roof style. And the only other one to use that you could use in-game are the western ones, these ones down here. So these ones here, but then they're shingles, they're not actual tiles that would be used on a Tudor roof. So I kind of backed myself into a corner a little bit with the actual styling, because Planet Coaster or Frontier didn't bother to give us all of the building items for all of the styles, so they didn't give us a consistent palette across everything. They just went, here's some stuff and be done with it. So we've kind of got to work with what we've got, right? So this is another one of those moments where you either fight with the game or you just run with it and go and see what happens. So we come to these alcoves, right? So they are just the haunted house ones that are on here, coloured the same as this roof. So that's, you know, that's all consistent, that's all fine. And then you just use the stucco and then all of your newly found techniques for decorating the Tudor area. But then this is where some of the trickery comes into it. So what I've used here are the classic brick set, just like I have with all of the foundations and everything, but I've just used the classic brick set to give it a bit of height and variation to the height. And then inside here I've started to create an actual window panel, so I'm just going to remove the glass from it so it's not going to fight with the hitbox. So I've started to use the hydro beams that come in Thememaker's Toolkit in varying different widths and lengths and everything to create an actual window pane. So I've used the black thick ones here and then the thinner ones along this side just to create almost like a jail cell effect, which is like a double hashtag, if you like, because I'm trendy and I'm cool. I get to use phrases like hashtag. I'm such a boomer. So then I've just done the same on the other side with the white as well, so it overlaps. As you can see, it pokes out of the top of the black bit, and then I've done the same this side. So I've then poked out the white bit outside of the black bit, so it's creating this variation along here. And then I've created singular panes by using the thinner hydro beams, again in the same white colour, just to go vertically, no, horizontally, the other vertical, horizontally along this way, so that it creates like this feeling of being an actual window. And then all I've done is, once I'm happy with that, I've then added it to like a building and then copied it across, so you've got 3 consistent easy looking ones, so you don't have to build them each time. You can just sort of group them together and then copy them across. And then because Tudor architecture would tend to use repeating styles, I've then decided to repeat this over here as well, so it just creates that real consistent design. And then I've done the same here. So with this bit that we've got that's curved, you wouldn't find this in just one place, you'd find it dotted around, because it's almost like once they've mastered a way of decorating something, the Tudors would then repeat it as much as possible. And it was all to do with being regal and copying each other, and like everybody looking almost the same. So Henry would have done this originally in his whole design, and everybody wanted to copy it. He was a bit of a trendsetter, was our Henry. So this is why. Anyway, this, however, was a bit of a nightmare to do, for the same reasons that we don't have any of the panels and everything that we've got for the tiles on the roof. I've ended up having to use concrete. It's not ideal, it's not perfect, it's a squint and believe it. But ultimately what we do with this one is we have to take a bit of trickery going on. So if I pull this out, the first thing I did was to lay down these extra, what are they called? The stucco wall gables, the gable walls. And then I have a variation or a selection of the stucco walls themselves. So in this instance, I've got a 1 meter wall and then the station wall. And then I've done the same again, the station wall on the opposite side. Let me just bring my grid down. There we go. So I've done the station wall on the other side, and this is now starting to create the shape. And then I get the gable walls again and place them up one more time, and I've now got this almost pyramid effect. Now you can't build this in any other way in game, but the Tudor architecture has this like weird pointy stuff right at the top, and this is really, really common. So I only did it the once, but you would actually find this more common in Tudor, and that's actually one thing I wish I did do a little bit more. And then all you do here is you then just copy and paste all of your other design elements that you've done, you know, your verticals and your horizontals, and then you take this plaster wall set that I've got here, and I'm actually going to show you how to do this rather than pulling it out. So if I type in plaster, so I've taken I've taken the smallest one here, right? But you could use a bigger one. So I've then lined it up with all of my wood beam that I've placed in this section here, and I put my angle snap on, and then I take it back like this. And I took it back, I think, on this one to 45 degrees, because that's pretty much the pitch that you're going to be using. Like so, and then like so. And then to create these wooden beam effects, all you do is you take your chosen beam, like this, and I'm going to use the smaller one. I'm not going to change the colour because you already know the routine, right? So all I've done with this one is I've lined it up so that it is the same angle, and it continues the angle, so it's continuing the angle from the bottom to the top. And then I take it like that. I then copy this over this way like that, so you're now creating the actual pyramid itself, and then lining it up with where you want this one to come down this way, and then crossing over the top. And now it's up to you whether you do this now or whether you do this in a moment, but I like to then tidy it up so I know that I'm working with an actual point, like so. There we go. And now you've created your almost like your roof bit effect, as if this stucco was going to continue along this way. You now take your 4 pieces that you've just done, and now you move them, and you now place those back 45 degrees as well. And then you place it back that way, and you bring it up, and that now gives you the area that you're going to need to colour in. And then you just use your plaster technique to colour it in. And then when you're ready to do the bits down this side and this side, especially if you're using the bigger piece, then just take that piece. Don't move its one axis rotation, but shift it around like this. Oh, that's just placed it, and then you just colour it that way. So you just go down and down and down, and then what you'll need to do is use a smaller piece along here, along this edge, just to stop it from clipping over this way. So this is where you've got this, right? So you can see here that I've used a circle because it's got rounded edges that then fill in this little corner here perfectly. I've used the really small plaster pieces all along this side, and then finished it off with a circle here. And then I've used the same technique there on the 45 degree tilt. So it's just like this way, and then I've just coloured in this area. I've repeated the exact same technique for this bit as well, and for this bit, and for this bit. And actually, technically, once you've done this side and this side, you could select them and then paste them, and it should be symmetrical. You can just rotate it around and it would be absolutely fine. And then you just finish it off with your beams to make sure that it's all in place, and then colour this red to make it look like the ceiling. So from like far away, it looks all right. It doesn't look too out of place. It sort of fits in as you would expect. And then on the inside, the other thing you've asked me to tear apart is the bar. Now you've seen me build bars before. Really quite simple and easy to do. But this is I've done something slightly different here. So there's a fridge that's available on Thememaker's Toolkit, and that's what I put in there. There we go. That's the fridge. So I use those everywhere. And then all I've done here is exactly the same technique I did over on the gift shop, in the sense that it's two walls. So if I bring it out this way and bring my grid down, all I do is I create my back wall, and then I create my front wall using the 1 meter grid. So whether this is going to be thick enough, that's going to be thick enough, or that's going to be thick enough. I've actually got 3 places that I can create different thickness of back bars or back cabinets or back shelving or whatever. So yeah, you just choose how thick you want it. I mean, it can be as thick as me, or thick. I've lost my train of thought now. So yeah, you can either make it as thick or thin as you actually want it. Now in this one, inside Harry's, I made it only the 1 bit thick, because I knew it just had to be as wide or as narrow as the refrigerator is. But then because I'm sinking the refrigerator into, that's a pillow you can see, because I'm sinking the refrigerator into the ground, then I've also used, surprise surprise, desk B just to create the floor of the actual fridge itself. So you know, it looks like it's just one central unit. And then I've just filled out a load of bottles just to make it believable as an actual fridge unit. And then, of course, we've got Desk B as the back bar. And then we've got just loads of the clutter and stuff that you find on Thememaker's Toolkit. So you've got drink dispensers, you've got the bottles. These come in game. These are the fairy tale stuff. The potion pots, the goblets, and the beer, what are they called? The tankards, and the bowls. And then the ice machine that comes from Thememaker's Toolkit as well. Loads of back bar clutter, and then you've just got your till on the front or your cash register on the front, a couple of serviettes, bit of bar stuff to make it look a little bit pretty, and then your tea bars. So the tea bars themselves, I've torn these apart before, but I'll do it again. It's all Thememaker's Toolkit with this one. So we've got some beams that create the spill trays, and then you've just got a beam that creates the vertical, and then you've got a beam that creates the horizontal, and then I've created the nozzles using other hydro beams. So this is an hydro beam special, and then I've created the same one, but I've made them off axis, off center from each other, so it actually looks like the handle. Otherwise it clips too much. So this is the best you're going to get, unfortunately. This is, yeah, you can't really get any smaller than this because it looks a little bit silly. So we'll just have to run with it, it's fine. So yeah, they look then like the handles. I did try and put some kind of badges on the front, but there's just nothing that exists on the workshop that was small enough. All of the badges were much bigger, so I just left them as they are. And the seating area is just a standard seating area. There's not really much to talk about here. And then over here, this is just like an area for people just to throw their rubbish away and leave their stuff there. So you've got salt and pepper stuff, you've got goblets and sauces and everything that have been left there, drinks dispensers, tray points and everything. So yeah, there's nothing trickery involved in there. It's just all about how you're going to place all of your stuff. And so I think that's everything that to show you on this one, because we've done a lot of the building tips. So guys, I hope you found this one interesting. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, especially if you did get this far. I really do appreciate you coming to hang out. It really does help the channel if you do get this far. And if you didn't, well, they've missed out, right? So it's fine. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. If you have liked the video, please leave a like, please leave a comment. You know, it all helps, and I love chatting to you guys over in the community tab, so please come over there as well. But otherwise, I will see you on Sunday for the next ChachoLandia episode. So until we speak again, please look after yourselves. Take care. Bye-bye.